Hello everybody, this is JT Productions and welcome back to my one and only NFL mock draft. I'm only going to do one of these. It's going to be a first round mock and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to do this to see where all of our beloved college players are going to go, succeed, and have their dreams come true, and see if I know what I'm talking about. I did this last year, didn't record it, but I did it last year and I got like one or two correct, so let's see if I've improved my knowledge this year. So, let's go ahead and get started. Carolina Panthers, first overall pick. I think that they have four options, especially since I believe that they are going to be taking a quarterback with this pick. And they're really quarterback, guard, and defensive end are their three biggest needs, so I think quarterback's the best one, especially since their best option at quarterback right now is Andy Dalton. So their four options are Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. All four of these guys at one point or another have been rumored to be the first overall pick. C.J. Stroud, the knock on him was the S2 test, that was the cognitive test, where he scored an 18% out of 100%, which experts have told that no one that has scored that low has succeeded in the NFL. Players have been drafted low and have scored high on the test and succeeded, like Brock Purdy from last year, but no one has succeeded when scoring that low. That could just be a facade. Anything can happen, but this is going to scare some teams away, I think. Next, you have Anthony Richardson. Very athletic. A unicorn of a athlete. Very good. Very strong arm. But the stuff between the ears is concerning when it comes to draftability of this guy, especially at number one overall. He has the tools to be an elite quarterback, but you don't want to have another Jamarcus Russell situation. So that, in my opinion, cuts him out of the number one overall pick. This leaves two guys, Bryce Young, who has been the consensus number one overall pick, first quarterback off the board since he was a freshman, really, in college. Well, sophomore, redshirt freshman, whatever. And the one knock against him has been his size. He's 5'10", just over 200 pounds. Now, he plays football like if Steph Curry was playing football. He looks like a point guard in the pocket. He gets the ball all over the field. You can find maybe just over a minute video of the bad mistakes that he's done, like bad highlights of him, maybe under a minute. But he's such a good player. Coming from a Georgia fan, especially in the SEC championship game where he had weapons that could make a difference, he tore us apart. And that was generational defense. So all props to him. However, Frank Reich is now the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. This guy has coached football with players like Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Nick Foles, all very big quarterbacks. The best one of his that he coached was Carson Wentz when Carson was with the Eagles. He was prototypical, over 6 foot, like 6'3", 6'4" size. Big player, could move around, wasn't afraid to get hit, and could throw it a mile downfield when needed to, could make plays. The one thing that I think is going to scare Frank Reich away from Bryce Young is going to be his longevity and durability. Now, there's a reason I haven't mentioned this last quarterback, Will Levis. Everybody has had him ever since the draft process started as the number 4 and sometimes number 5 quarterback. Well, sometimes number 3 as well, but ever since the combine, not really. Will Levis scored a 93 on that S2 exam. Bryce Young scored a 98. not that far off from each other. Very smart players. Will Levis came from a very different situation. He was at Kentucky, a very non-quarterback friendly college. They've had a number one overall, or they've had an NFL quarterback in Tim Couch, but that quarterback fizzed out in the NFL. Will Levis led Kentucky when he was fully healthy to a 10-win season in 2021. 2022, they were undefeated, but Will Levis got injured in the Ole Miss game, which led to him missing some games, and when he played, he wasn't the same player. He has prototypical size, he plays with a chip on his shoulder, he plays the game of football sort of like a linebacker. He's not afraid to lower his shoulder and make hits. Now, I could ramble on and on. He has great arm strength. He has the accuracy. He has quick release. I think Frank Reich is falling in love with Will Levis. Now, you could come at me and yell at me saying, you're just saying that because you're a Georgia fan. Well, you know who agrees with me? Las Vegas. The Caesars has put Will Levis's odds to be the first overall pick from 401 earlier today to 4-1. So, if that tells me anything, Vegas knows something. And I think that something is Will Levis going number one overall to the Carolina Panthers to be their new franchise quarterback. Now, with that being said, Bryce Young doesn't fall far. He goes number 2 overall to the Houston Texans to be their franchise quarterback. And to reunite with another former Alabama player in DeMeco Ryans to be his head coach. Now, they could have taken Will Anderson here. They could have taken Jalen Carter here. But Davis Mills, he's okay for what he is. Bryce Young is going to bring a spark to that offense, especially with reuniting with former teammate John Mechie. So I think that's an alright pick. We'll see what they do with their second one later in the draft. And number 3, the Cardinals are in a mess. The Cardinals, let's see. Oh, goodness, excuse me. The Arizona Cardinals need about everything. Here are their draft needs: running back, wide receiver, center, guard, tackle, defensive end, defensive line, defensive back, and safety. Everything but quarterback they need. So, I think we need to build the trenches for the Cardinals, and I'm not the only one. I saw a post earlier today talking about Kyler Murray telling the Cardinals that he wants Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle from Ohio State. Supposedly the best tackle in the draft. That's debatable, but we're going to make Kyler's wishes come true right now. Paris Johnson becomes the Arizona Cardinal, helping to anchor that offensive line and protect Kyler from more injuries. And number 4, we got the Indianapolis Colts. Now the Colts, they're also a quarterback needy team. They need guard, they need wide receivers, they need linebackers, they need defensive backs and safeties. The Colts, the quarterbacks on the board, you have C.J. Stroud and you have Anthony Richardson. Their new head coach, I forget his name, starts with an S, but he was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. He coached Jalen Hurts into a potential MVP. So I think that the Colts would be very comfortable with taking a athletic freak here in Anthony Richardson. This could be their new Jalen Hurts, but with just a little bit more athleticism. Now, that was the easy stretch. At least, kind of. Now we get to some murky waters here. Now, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I am going to be doing trades in this draft, so just be prepared for that. At number 5, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Their draft needs are defensive back, defensive line, defensive end, center, guard, wide receiver, and quarterback. And with that being said, there's 2 main players that I have on the board for the Seahawks. Will Anderson Jr. and Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter fell because of incidents that happened in early January that he was caught up in. And Will Anderson, he's been dropping on some boards because of some, I guess, not as productive, and they don't think that he is the player that they thought he was, maybe. I think that he's still phenomenal, but that's just from what I've heard. But I think that the Seahawks are fine at edge for now. Interior defensive linemen, elite interior defensive linemen, are very tough to find nowadays. And Jalen Carter is one of a kind. I don't think that he gets past the top 10. I don't think he gets past the top 5. I think the Seattle Seahawks select Jalen Carter to make him a part of a scrappy defense that is getting a lot better. Now we got the Detroit Lions at pick number 6. Detroit needs defensive line, defensive end, wide receiver, guard, quarterback, tight end, and defensive back. Detroit has done well to sign defensive backs to help their secondary. They got Cameron Sutton, and they also got Emmanuel Mosley to help the back end of that secondary. However, they do need a star because they got rid of Jeff Okudah. They still have, what's his name? He's also a defensive back. Anyways, there's 2 different ways I could see this going. I could see them going after Devon Witherspoon. I could see them trading back maybe with a quarterback-needy team to jump the Raiders. I could see them going with Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, or anything like that. Will Anderson and Aiden Hutchinson would be a elite combo. And you have a pick down here at pick 18 for the Lions that you could trade up to get Devon Witherspoon. So, with that being said, I don't know. They really, from what I've heard, Dan Campbell really likes Devon Witherspoon, and that would complete the secondary. It's tough. I think I'm going with Witherspoon. It was between Witherspoon and Anderson, but from what I've heard, the Detroit Lions really do like Witherspoon, and we'll see if they can get an elite edge rusher with their second pick. At pick number 7, the Las Vegas Raiders. They need pretty much all the offensive line, quarterback, which they got Jimmy G, wide receiver, running back, linebacker. Right now, Josh Jacobs is on the franchise tag, so keep that in mind for later in the draft if they decide to trade back into the first round. But I think we get Jimmy Garoppolo. Skoronski or Broderick Jones, whichever one they think is the better one. I think that they're going to pick Broderick Jones out of Georgia with the 7th pick to bolster the offensive line and help protect Jimmy Garoppolo. At pick 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons. Let's see. The Atlanta Falcons need linebacker, center, wide receiver, any on the defensive line, or defensive back. Right now, Will Anderson's still on the board. He's not going to fall lower than this, at least lower than the top 10. I think that the Falcons pick him here to help get an elite edge rush with Arnold Ebiketie and Will Anderson. That's about all I have to say about that one. At pick number 9, the Chicago Bears, who need about everything on the defensive side at least, look to get another elite edge rusher to sort of be their Khalil Mack replacement. And I think that's going to be Tyree Wilson. He's been hyped throughout the draft process, so we'll see if he can back it up. Next up, pick number 10. The Philadelphia Eagles. Their draft needs guard, linebacker, safety. Now they have a bunch of good players. They got Kelsey still. They still have Lane Johnson, I believe. They have Landon Dickerson. I don't. You see, there's an issue here. Nolan Smith is your prototypical guy that could be the next Hassan Reddick if they want to try to kind of replicate that. Now, you also have the guard position with Osiris Torrance. But he could be there later in the draft, especially at your second pick. If not, you can trade up. Safety, that you can get Brian Branch, or you could wait and get maybe a Sidney Brown, maybe a J.L. Skinner, an Antonio Johnson, Jamie Robinson, any of these guys to replace C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But I'm going to go with I'm going with it. I think they go with Nolan Smith. Actually, no, I don't. This is tough. Do they go with Nolan Smith, or do they bolster up the O-line some more? Or do they go after Brian Branch? Brian Branch could be in play here as well. This is tough. I've done a different thing almost every time for the Eagles. I could trade back as well for a quarterback needy team that wants to trade up and get C.J. Stroud. And that could be anyone from the Packers to the Patriots, the Commanders, or the Buccaneers. At this point, I don't think any of these teams would be willing to trade with the Eagles because of the Titans being right after them. And then the Texans. Titans, I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback because of... that could be tough. I may do it right here. Propose the trade. Alright, so we have the Buccaneers trading up with the Philadelphia Eagles. Our first trade up to draft their quarterback of the future in C.J. Stroud. He'll be able to sit behind Baker for a year at least and learn the playbook and hopefully learn some stuff. So that's the last really first round quarterback. You could maybe say that Hendon Hooker could sneak into the first round, but I see him more as a second round guy. So we'll see what happens. C.J. Stroud at number 10. Next up we have the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans, they need offensive line. So let's go ahead and give it to them. Peter Scrum. Well, no. I think they take Darnell Wright. And there's a reason. Darnell Wright is a true right tackle. Instead of being a left tackle that you can put over to right tackle, he's a true right tackle. Peter Skronsky is purely left tackle, I believe. And the thing about being a tackle, unless you're ambidextrous, it's very tough to play both left and right tackle because of your footwork. So, that's why I went with Darnell Wright here. I think you could take Skronsky as well, but that's just my forte of taking Darnell Wright. So, that's just my thinking. Also, this rectifies the Isaiah Wilson pick from a couple of years ago. Pick number 10, we got the Houston Texans. And, hold on. Got the notes. Houston Texans took quarterback Bryce Young with the second pick. And now they're at pick 12. They need O-line. Really, they just need a tackle to maybe replace Titus Howard. They need a slot defensive back, nickel back. They need a linebacker. They need a nose tackle, wide receiver, running back. You could take a wide receiver to pair, but I think John Mechie, Jackson Smith and Jigba is more of a slot guy. John Mechie's in that role right now. Jordan Addison, we don't know yet. Quentin Johnston could be the guy, but we don't know. You could get him later on. The Texans also maybe would want to get a defensive player. Maybe a Miles Murphy would be good, but I don't know if this is good value to take Miles Murphy. Nolan Smith, I just don't know if he'd need to be in the right system. And maybe this would be him right here with the Texans, but I don't know, dude. I mean, he's a great run defender. He's not that great with rushing the passer. He's a great athlete. He needs to work on his, especially being undersized for a linebacker, or an edge player. Honestly, though, I think it's growing on me. I think I take Nolan Smith here. Get D'Amico Ryans, an athlete at on the defensive side, to be on the other side of Jonathan Grenard. Maybe play him at sub linebacker a little bit. Help string out the runs on the edge and be a guy that can just be a dog on that defense. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, who traded Aaron Rodgers to the Jets yesterday. Now it's the Jordan Love era in Green Bay, and they're probably going to be looking for some weapons for good old Jordan Love. Packers needs, you need tackle, you need safety, you need quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, defensive back. Now, let's see. Safety, you still have Brian Branch on the board. Tackle, on the other hand, Peter Skronsky's still on the board. So, this would be a great place to take him right here. Peter Skronsky's on the board. That's who I'm taking to continue the trend of Packers not helping their quarterbacks out when it comes to this. Now we have the New England Patriots on the clock. New England, they would have loved to pick one of those 4 quarterbacks, but now they're looking to maybe just wait it out and try to get the wide receiver that they need in Jackson Smith and Jigba, and maybe pick up a quarterback in the second round. This would be a great slot great slot help with Juju Smith-Schuster on the outside, Kendrick Bourne, another speed guy, Tyquan Thornton as well. Be a polished receiver to help out if they keep Mac Jones, or if they get another quarterback, or if they stay with Bailey Zappi. Next up, you have the New York Jets. They need a tackle to help out Aaron Rodgers. They'll think that they bite the bullet and take Anton Harrison here. Giving Aaron Rodgers another blindside blocker at left tackle to be the heir apparent of George Fant. Number 16, the Washington Commanders. They need quarterback, defensive back, tackle, and wide receiver. And guess who's still on the board? Christian Gonzalez fell right into their lap. Migrated number 1 corner in this draft. So, good job, Washington. And number 17, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the thing with me taking Anton Harrison at 15 for the Jets is if they didn't take him, the Steelers would have most definitely taken him. The Steelers need O-line, definitely, defensive back, a slot defensive back, linebacker, nose tackle, wide receiver, running back. Mostly, they just need the offensive line. And I think that, would they take DeJuan Jones, or would they trade back? Trading back would probably be the best situation for them. Who would they trade back with? Maybe the Chargers, because they're interesting. Let the Seahawks trade up to get maybe their heir apparent on the defensive side of an edge player, or Lucas Van Ness. Miles Murphy or Lucas Van Ness would be probably a pick, or a good pick. Linebacker, you still have these guys on the board. I just don't know if the linebacker class is as good as it needs to be. Or anybody that needs a defensive back. Which the Steelers do need. Joey Porter Jr. would be a good pick to them, or Deonte Banks. It's just who that they want more. They picked the Pittsburgh kid last year in Kenny Pickett. Would they get a legend's son in Joey Porter Jr.? I think so. I think they picked Joey Porter Jr. It's just too good, man. It's just too good. They get a former legend's son, and now the Lions are up. The Lions have been in talks of trading this pick back. And would they do that though? Trade out of the first round for, let me just mess around with this. The Cardinals traded up with the Detroit Lions to select any position, honestly. They may have to get rid of Budda Baker because he's wanting out. Let's see. They need all of these positions, but with him on the board, with him in position to be taken, I think that they get Bijan Robinson. Best running back in the draft. They need somebody to help out James Conner and Kyler Murray. Getting him to Arizona would be a big pickup. And now the pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's the C.J. Gardner-Johnson replacement in Brian Branch. They traded down and got who they wanted anyways. So now we got the Seattle Seahawks once again. They got Jalen Carter with their first pick. Second pick, you got some more defensive guys. You got Miles Murphy. You got Deonte Banks you can pick. That can be another guy that can help out with Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant. You got Lucas Van Ness, who's another guy that's been falling down boards, who was originally a very high sought-out pick. Any of these three guys would be studs. I don't think they're going to go after Keely Ringo. Brian Brzee is an interesting thought, but you already got an interior guy in Jalen Carter earlier in the draft. So I think they go with, interesting. I think that they go with Deonte Banks. Get some help in that back end with Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant to maybe rebuild that Legion of Boom that once was. At number 21, we got the Los Angeles Chargers. And, let's see. The Chargers, they franchise tagged, what's his name? What's his name? Their running back, I forget his name. Austin Eckler. There we go. So, he could be gone after this year. Or they haven't franchise tagged him, but he's looking to get out of Los Angeles. So they could be looking for a running back. They need a tackle, linebacker, defensive line, defensive back. Mostly just the first two. So the tackles that are left, you got DeJuan Jones. Running backs, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, who you could maybe get later and maybe trade down again. Another team trading down. You still got the wide receiver, two stud wide receivers still on the board, and Brian Brzee still on the board. You got all three tight ends, elite tight ends on the board. So, where do we go from here? There we go. Okay. So the Giants trade up to number 21, and they're going to go after their future wide receiver, Now, it's between Addison and Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston's more of a big body receiver. Now, do they want that in New York, or do they want a polished guy like Jordan Addison? I think that they're going to want a guy more like Quentin Johnston because of his play, playing the 50-50 ball and everything like that. So that's why I'm going with Quentin Johnston. And for the Ravens, they got their pick between Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers. Now, more in line, they need defensive back. But are they going to pick somebody like Keely Ringo at this point? I think that they could because of that defense and how they work. I don't know if they want to take a chance on Keely, though. That's their biggest need. They also need defensive interior, like a Brian Brzee or Kalijah Cansey as well. Tackle, that's not really anything good. Offensive guard, I mean, you still have Osiris Torrance on the board, but they do still have a good offensive line. You know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. I think Keely Ringo goes to the Baltimore Ravens as a shock to everybody. And now we have the Minnesota Vikings. A team that needs wide receiver. And I think that they get Jordan Addison. The last true, well, I'd say one of the last. I'd say there's one more that's pretty good. Jacksonville. I think that they're going to bolster the defense and help out on the Jacksonville. I think they go on the D-line and go Brian Brzee. Another interior elite edge rusher to help out with Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. Now with the Chargers, who traded down. Chargers are looking for running back, tackle, linebacker. You could go with a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, home run hitter, or you could go with a linebacker with Trenton Simpson. I think after trading down once, they're ready to pick up a future, maybe, elite running back. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a more explosive Travis Etienne type. So we'll see how it goes for them. If Austin Eckler doesn't leave, then they'll just have two pretty good running backs. And now, at number 26, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys need running back, linebacker, defensive line, and wide receiver. With Jahmyr Gibbs off the board, they're going to be looking at really the defense. They could go Kalijah Cansey. They could trade down. They could go wide receiver with Zay Flowers. They got good tight ends. There we go. So we trade up with the Seattle Seahawks to the 26th pick to select Myles Murphy to be another piece of this new and improved defense. You got Jalen Carter, you got Deonte Banks, and you got Myles Murphy. Pretty good picks, if you ask me. Next up, we got the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills need linebacker, guard, right tackle. Let's see. So guard, you still have Osiris Torrance on the board. This could be where he goes. If they don't take him, I'm sure that the Bengals would take him. So, this is an interesting situation. They need guard. They need right tackle. They need wide receiver. They need D-line. So they've gotten a couple of guards in free agency. So I would say linebacker would be the most likely. Trenton Simpson, still on the board. I don't foresee any of the other of these 4 teams taking him. So I could see a team trading into the first round for maybe an edge rusher like Van Ness, or the Bills could pick Van Ness and let him be the eventual successor to Von Miller. But, or they could pick up Zay Flowers and let him be another replacement guy for Gabe Davis when he eventually gets either not re-signed or something like that. So, let's see who their trade partner could be. Trading down with the Texans. And the Texans go after another wide receiver to help out Bryce Young. And they grab Zay Flowers, wide receiver from Boston College. The last true, in my opinion, first-round receiver. So, with that being said, we'll go to the Bengals pick, and I got them taking a guard in Osiris Torrance. Maybe a little bit of a reach, but they need help. Still. Next up, you got the New Orleans Saints, who needed wide receiver, D-line, or defensive end. And they could get Lucas Van Ness to help out on the edge. This could be where he goes. They do need defensive end, they need D-line, and they need tight end. They could go Dalton Kincaid, they could go Michael Mayer. Let's see, when's their next pick? They got to pick at 40. Okay. Do they get Dalton Kincaid here, or do they get Lucas Van Ness and help out the defensive end position? I feel like, let's see, what would the Eagles? The Eagles have gotten Brian Branch so far. Okay. So the Eagles, they're probably going to be trading out of the first round. And somebody could come in and take a tight end. They could take Lucas Van Ness. And elite edge rushers, I mean, you could find a gem like Isaiah Foskey. Or maybe Will McDonald later. B.J. Ojolari. Keon White later. But, I think, because Kalijah Kancey's still on the board, I think he's more of a second-round guy. I could see him going here to the Eagles, or not the Eagles, the Saints. But I think that they go on the upside of Lucas Van Ness and take him here to help still revitalize the defensive side of the ball. At pick 30, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. At this point, they're just trying to stockpile picks. And they're going to try to find a partner that wants to get into the first round, possibly for maybe Hendon Hooker if they want him. The only two teams I could see trading up for a quarterback at all would be the Raiders or the Patriots. I don't foresee the Tennessee Titans trading up because they invested a pick in Malik Willis last year. Fairly early, I believe it was in the 3rd round. So I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to trade down with anybody to a substantial amount here. Linebacker, they could get Trenton Simpson. Go ahead and get that linebacker situation fixed. I mean, that would be a good pick. They could go after, like, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer. I'm going to go ahead and say that they go ahead and get the first linebacker off the board in Trenton Simpson. And go ahead and help get some young guys at linebacker, Trenton Simpson and Nakobe Dean on the same defense. It's going to be scary. And finally, for my last pick in the first round of the NFL draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Dalton Kincaid. Yes, a tight end. I think that good old Kelsey, while he is still very great, is getting up there in age. And I think that this would be a great second choice to Patrick Mahomes at tight end to help on the offensive side. So here's the draft, and here's each team's gettings. You got the Cardinals getting Paris Johnson Jr. and Bijan Robinson. Falcons got Will Anderson. The Ravens got Keely Ringo. The Bills traded out of the first round. Panthers got Will Levis. Bears got Tyree Wilson. Bengals got Osiris Torrance. The Browns were never in the first round. The Cowboys traded out of the first round. Broncos weren't in the first round. The Lions got Devin Witherspoon, as well as trading for DeAndre Hopkins. Packers got Peter Skoronski. The Texans got Bryce Young, Nolan Smith, and Zay Flowers. The Colts got Anthony Richardson. The Jaguars got Brian Brzee. The Chiefs got Dalton Kincaid. The Las Vegas Raiders got Broderick Jones. Jahmyr Gibbs went to the Chargers. The Rams didn't have a first-round pick. Neither did the Dolphins. The Vikings got Jordan Addison. The Patriots got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Saints got Lucas Van Ness. Giants got Quentin Johnston. Jets got Anton Harrison. The Eagles got Brian Branch and Trenton Simpson to help keep the defense good. Steelers got Joey Porter Jr. 49ers didn't have a first-round pick. The Seahawks got Jalen Carter, Deontay Banks, and Myles Murphy. Buccaneers got C.J. Stroud, and just don't pay attention to the picks. I was just trying to make it work. Titans got Darnell Wright, and the Commanders got Christian Gonzalez. So, I had four Georgia players going in the first round, for all you Georgia fans that were wondering out there. So, anyways, there is my mock draft. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and can't wait till Thursday to see if I actually got it right. So, hope you all have a good day, and go Dogs.